So good morning, everyone, and this is January 29th, and it is my mother's birthday, and many others' birthdays. So happy birthday, Mom, and happy birthday, everybody. And see, Mom, you got mentioned on YouTube. And, but anyway, we are at the Namaste Center in Hendersonville, North Carolina, where enlightenment lives. And we are blessed today to have two wonderful guests who are here all the way from Hawaii. And that's certainly somewhere that we'd all like to be, or it's paradise from what I understand. And I know that a few years ago, just a little story, my niece Hannah was only a little tyke, and my sister and her husband found Hawaii, and they went several times one year. They just thought it was a most fantastic place. And they left the kids with their grandparents. So Hannah just proceeded to cry and cry and cry, and like, oh, and her grandmother said, "Hannah, please stop crying. What do you want? How can I get you to stop crying?" Because she wouldn't stop, and she said, "Take me to Hawaii." See, we don't have to cry, but wouldn't that be nice if we could just go back to Hawaii with you guys? So actually, we have iokepa and we have inette. And Inette is actually the author of this beautiful book, Grandmother's Wisdom, and it's Grandmother's Whispers, excuse me, thank you. And she has actually documented her story with iokepa. And it is quite a story, and we're going to talk about some of the key parts of this and see where it all goes. But before we do that, I would love it if iokepa, if you would share a chant with us.
Stand, please.
Thank you for that blessing. And so iokepa, we'll just start. What was that?
Okay, well, this is appropriate for what we do. I don't even talk about the ancestors unless there's the chance first. And that's in honoring my culture, my people, my islands. So what it's first, it's asking for your attention. I think I got part of it, huh? And the back row. The next line is, we come to remember the past. We come to bless the future. We come to honor the spirits of the land. We come to live in the presence of God in every breath. Ho'omai ka'i is blessings.
Thank you. Now, one thing I'd like to ask you also is aloha. Please tell us what aloha means to you.
Well, aloha is in the presence of, so it's in the presence of all of God's creation. The ha is the divine gift, is the breath. It's to be said aloha, honoring the breath. That's the divine gift. So it doesn't mean hello and goodbye. If I say it to anyone in this room, I'm acknowledging the soul. That we've all come from the one. And that's the Hawaiians believe in the one, but we're multitudes of the one. So.
Thank you very much. Well, Inette, this is a beautiful book, and
Thank you.
it's fabulous.
It's the grandmother's hand.
The grandmother's hand, which I want to read just a little bit about you because, first of all, you're a Jewish woman, a writer, a level-headed single mother, agreeing to write a passage that demanded you walk in someone else's land. So you trek the blurred borders of magic. You were a mute the first year, but she's no longer shy about telling her story because this is a story of human possibilities of spirit. And it's equally the story of the human path, burdened with fears and doubts. She went on vacation for a week and stayed a lifetime. So, and this is a fascinating story. So please tell us your story. How you two met and where this all has taken you, because it's amazing.
Well, first let me just say, Charlotte, that Grandmother's Whisper is my memoir, but it is so much more. It is because I was, as you said, engaged this very foreign culture to me. It is the story of human possibility for each of us. And the grandmother's words that speak to both of us are really transcendent, and they are in italics throughout the book, alternating with the personal story. The personal story is, I am a Jewish woman from Baltimore City. That's where I was born and reared. So I have culture very seriously up to here, guys, and I adore it. I had been a single mom for 13 years living in Portland, Oregon, when I got the first vacation in years without children to Hawaii. And I said to my girlfriend, all that I want out of this vacation is sunshine, relaxation, and solitude. Well, you know, we speak and God laughs is an old Yiddish expression. Humans plan and God laughs. The second day that I arrived in Hawaii, and I was pushed and shoved in Hawaii and then ultimately to the island of Kauai in ways that the book will tell, and I'll try to be brief. And Christmas morning at a sunrise service, I laid eyes on this man for the first time. And my life changed drastically from that moment, and I understand you have a story that will resonate in the same way. There was an utter sense of destiny, and yet I fought it every step of the way. I had a life. I had 2 sons to rear. I had been an international journalist and an author all my life. I had a career. I had friends. I had family. I kept saying to iokepa during that week, do you have any idea how unlikely we are? And he would get what I call, well, in nice company, I call a Cheshire cat grin. This is my crowd. And he would answer, do you intimidate many men? And there begins the story. Shall I tell his or let him tell his?
I would, if he wants to tell his, I would love to hear it out of the Cheshire Cat's mouth.
Better than an alley cat, huh?
So my story was I was in Washington State at the time my grandmothers came. So what happened was January 28th, 1997, and I had a big construction job that putting in water line for Seattle watershed, 78 to 106 inch pipe. So had massive equipment, a lot of dump trucks, a lot of men, a lot of welders, and the whole program. So what happened was I loved my job, but I was taking a brand new Kenworth dump truck to a job site one morning. It was the 28th of January. And the sun was coming up on the horizon. It was shining right into the windshield of the truck. And it didn't seem to bother me, but I felt like I had to give a prayer. And now, I had nothing to do with any religions. I knew I was Hawaiian, but I really had no time. I was a hot rodder on the and drag raced, and so I had no. And my work was took up the rest of the time, the rest of the slack. So the sun was coming through the windshield of the truck, and I offered a prayer. And it was a prayer of gratitude. I was 46 years old. I was single. I had a nice house on a lake. I had 7 cars and a hot rod. I had a really nice drag boat. I had things that, and I was. So what happened was I gave this prayer. Of my kids were in college, and I went all the way through this. It went on and on. This prayer did. But finally, at the end of the prayer, I said, if anyone in my family was going to pass, come take me. I was 46 years old. I was happy, and if anyone was going to go, I can go, you know. So as the day went on, I kept having feelings in my stomach, and it wasn't sick. It was just a real odd feeling. That evening on the 28th, my sister called me and said, iokepa, I just came back from the island of Kauai, and I had some information about the mo'oku'auhau. The mo'oku'auhau in Hawaiian is our genealogy. And with that word, I started crying. And she says, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't cry, you know, that's not my thing. So, it wasn't there anyway. And so, that evening, so I got off the phone. She calls me back later on, about 11:30 at night. She says, how are you doing? I said, terribly. I'm still crying. I don't know what's going on. She says, okay, well, try to go to sleep. So I got to work the next day, and I had the same thing going on. So I was kind of hiding out from the men, obviously. And she calls me. She says, how's everything going? I said, terrible. It's the same thing going on. I have this weight on my shoulders. I said, there's just something happening. But I said, it has something to do with Hawaii. Something. I don't know what it is. So she says, well, I have a friend that has a friend. I'll see what they say. So she calls me back that evening, and she says, there's a woman that wants to talk to you and maybe give you some answers around what's going on. And I said, okay, good. She says, I have an appointment for tomorrow night. So now this is going to be the 30th of January. So as soon as I said, I'll go, this weight got off my shoulders. I could speak normally. The crying was over with. I went to work the next day, everything was fine. That evening, my sister came, picked me up, and we went to this woman's house together. We walk into this woman's house, and odd things started happening. But we sat down at her dining room table, and she said, someone's here, been waiting for you. And in walked my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother, and introduced themselves, because I never knew them. They were all passed before I was born. And said, the first thing they said is, we heard your prayer, we've been waiting for you to say it, and you finally said it, and the timing is perfect. And the umbilical cord has never been severed. The weight that was on your shoulders, my grandmother laughed and said, it was me waiting for you to make the commitment to be here tonight, because we wanted to talk to you about some promises that were made 1,000 years ago. So they filled the house with love, unconditional love. And what they looked like was a light around the frame of a human frame with faded face. So I wake up every morning with that same love. It was an hour-and-a-half conversation. My sister was sitting by my side, and this other woman to witness this whole thing.
15 years ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
15 years ago. So they said that we heard your prayer, and now there was a promise you made to go back to the islands to represent your culture, your people, and your islands. And you have choices. That if you don't want to do this, we understand. If you do want to do it, and you want to go back for only a year, we understand. But whatever you decide, if you want to go back for the year and come back, they said, whatever you do in life, you'll be more than successful at. And I smiled at them and I said, you know what the answer to all this is, don't you? And they said, yes. So they said, you're going to leave in 2 weeks. But before you leave, you have to give away everything you've worked for all your life. So in that 2 weeks, I gave away my house, I gave away my cars, I gave away $1,620,000 contract. That was going to be the end of my career in this heavy construction thing in a 2-year program. So I took the walk and went back to the islands with 2 small duffel little bags and $100 in my pocket, with no ID identifying me as an American citizen anymore. That was part of the deal, is if you're gonna go back to represent your people, you have to go back as a Hawaiian only. So this is the journey. And it was a 10-year grooming period, my grandmother said. So in the 10 years, living with no income, living completely in faith.
For the rest of your life.
For the rest of my life. And it's still, it hasn't stopped, it's still going on. Just that, we're not on that right now. So
The promise, the words were that you would never work, that iokepa would never work for man again or for paycheck again. That it would only be for God and for people.
So I have no driver's license, but my grandmother said drive, because she said no one's gonna hit you and you're not gonna hit anyone. So don't even worry about that. That's a fear thing that you're not gonna have to worry about. But it gets kind of exciting around TSA. Airport's lovely. So we have a great conversation, and I have an ID that only says I'm a Hawaiian, and has a picture on it, made it up on a computer, laminated it, and that's what we move with. And the rest is all in the grandmother's hands. The words are, we're here today presenting the grandmother's words, and it wouldn't have been right if I wouldn't have been outside asking to make sure that those words are going to be here for you. And I think a lot of us will remember, I think the book tells a great story, but you're not removed from that book, because we've all come from an indigenous ancestry that had to know how to survive. And I like what you're talking about, the fear thing, and controlling, and things that have happened in the thousands and thousands of years of history. That everyone, the historians like to say that every one of you have come from murderous people, killers, conquerors, warring people. But the truth is you haven't. Actually, in the very beginning of survival, we all came from cultures that had to know how to survive and bring other tribes in to create communities, and communities were very, very strong, and there were no wars. And that is the truth, and that they became nations. And then at one time, that's pretty doggone recent if you look at the history of our cultures that we've all come from. But we use the foundation Hawaiian as where we speak from, but it's all cultures. So I have a 13,000-year history and culture with 12,300 years with no war. Pretty significant. My grandmother said to be ashamed that if the Hawaiian culture went away, that no one would know the truth of who they actually were and what they represented. So the book tells a story. We do seminars to tell how they prevented war and what that was about.
Well, it's an amazing story, and I have more questions in a minute, but I want to get to Inette here too, because first of all, you are the author of this, and it's fascinating. And I had the pleasure of hearing you all speak on Friday, but one thing that touched me that you spoke of was surrender. And, you know, we talk about surrender, but you are walking surrender, both of you all. And I just was on your website, or maybe Googling you, I can't even remember, and you were not only an author, you were very famous and established. You wrote an ABC a book that was made into an ABC movie of the week, which was a very popular one, which I can't pull the name in now.
It was Burning Bridges.
Burning Bridges. Oh. And that was wonderful back in the late 60s, right?
Late 80s.
Late 80s, that's right, excuse me, late 80s, I'm sorry, yes.
No, I am old enough. I was doing something else then.
So you know, you had a very lucrative career that you could have just said, okay, this is it, and I'll follow it the rest of my life and raise my boys and stay in Boston or go to Hawaii on vacation. So surrender, tell us about it.
It's not that I didn't struggle with it. And Iokepa speaks about the grandmother's coming, about asking this of him and his surrender. And for 15 years, 14 of which I've known him and lived with him, I have never seen a moment where his faith flagged. My story is a bit different. You know, I said the other day, and I'm going to say again, that if you can imagine a Band-Aid on a hairy arm, each piece of surrender felt like tugging that hair, the slowly peeling off bandage for me. And it's a funny thing about surrender. One of the painful things you'll follow in Grandmother's Whisper in those first couple of years, and they were in many ways transcendent but also very painful years. And remember, I'm living in a tent with a 14-year-old with me. So that surrendering the material things was one thing. Not easy, but one thing. I think of my wonderful library. My books were really important to me. I think of the things that my parents gave me over the years. I think of the things inherited. I didn't understand when I met him, or even when I moved to the island 6 months later, the degree of what surrender would mean. It meant a surrender of an identity. You know, we each have our little resumes, you know? We each have our little, you know who I am? No. And again, I said the other day that a therapist friend years ago, I said to him, I'm only as good as my last story. And he went, whoa, that's as good as you are, just your last story. Well, we're not as good as our last story. But it took me years to get that I didn't need the resume, that what I had done in this life wasn't who I am in this life. And that's true for all of us. And we live in a world that measures us in some very difficult and painful ways. They ask us, it's demanding, it's noisy, and it's in many ways fear-provoking. This life and these people are the antithesis of that. It is about fear came there. And fear has been imposed there, and some awful things have happened in the name of oppression to the Native Hawaiian people, but the answers still survive in a people who, for, as my husband said, 12,300 years, knew they were inseparable, knew aloha in the presence of all of God's creation in every breath, no less so to your fellow man, to the earth, to the ocean. So for me, I lived for these 10 years of grooming on the beach, in tents, never knowing where the next meal would come, a lot thinner than either of us are now, because the next meal didn't come, sometimes for weeks, with a child who I was so guilt-ridden about. This is a nice middle-class kid who wasn't complaining and who was deeply and profoundly, everyone's favorite character of the book is Nathan. There's no question. But the guilt I felt for the ways that I was surrendering, the ways that I mothered. So that the kinds of surrender in this life of ours is forever. And the sooner we get that it isn't about giving up the gifts that we're born with, quite the opposite. The message of this book is that we're all born with individual, not the same gifts, both personal and cultural. It's about using them. But surrendering to the fact that we simply don't control the direction of our lives. So every day and every breath and in every moment, Iokepa and I'm standing in the back there saying, you know, grandmothers, God, you know, give me the words. It's never the same, and it's important for all of us. It's an important time. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you. Well, Iokepa, you had mentioned the other day that your family had to give birth to you in Washington so they could give you a Hawaiian name. Tell about that oppression.
Well,
And your name, please. Yes.
well, my name is Iokepa Hanalei Imai Kalani. Imai Kalani means the best from the sky or best from heaven. Io is God in Hawaiian. Kepa is choice or chosen. Hanalei means to work, to bring together. So the best from heaven is God has chosen me to return to work to bring the people together. So I thought in the beginning it was going to be just the Hawaiian people, but it ended up being the picture got larger and larger as the years went by and the grooming time. My dad was exiled from the from Hawaii, so that I could be born in the United States, in Washington State. Because there's the laws that were in Hawaii, I couldn't have a Hawaiian first name. It would have been a Christian first name. There were laws for 150 years on the books till 1972 that you couldn't name your child a Hawaiian first name. You couldn't practice la'au lapa'au is the healing arts with plants and so on. You couldn't dance the original hula, is the kahiko, and it's a prayer. When they danced at night, there was a prayer. There was a dance for every moon phase, and it was around the women's energy, so the males and females would dance. And Ho'oponopono, and couldn't speak. Ho'oponopono is the art of repelling war, bringing the community together. Whenever there's a disagreement in the community, they bring the people together and hold a Ho'oponopono session. And couldn't speak the language. So 150 years couldn't speak the language, or else be beaten in public. It really put a hold on the language and all the whole culture. Some went underground. Some it's been let loose since 72, but now it's been anglicized. So what has happened is even my language and the whole idea of the Hawaiian identity is an American idea. Our identity's been taken. The idea of Hawaii and Hawaiians is new. That's a new concept for the Hawaiian people. In the beginning, the people called themselves Kanaka Maoli, and that means original people. And the islands they called Lahui. And Lahui means nation gathering people tribe. So that's what they called themselves, they were already united. They were united because they knew each other like your brothers and sisters know each other. I mean, because they all knew where everyone came from. They knew the beginning. And so the genealogy, they knew it on every island, and they moved freely between those islands and had conversation. They danced, they told stories. There was the real binding of the islands was the oral transmission, and that was taken away. So communities were broken, and fear was implemented. So our job, my job in this lifetime, is to start filling in the 150-year gap. So I just wanted to say, what I do is, my grandmothers have given me this how to iokepa. And iokepa in Hawaii is commune with the spirits. And Ike Hanau is your birth knowledge. And for all of us here, we all have birth knowledge because we are from our ancestors. And we do carry the DNA and the cellular structure that our ancestors carried. So all the knowing that they knew, all the things they felt, you all have that opportunity to know. So what we're talking about is, we're not talking about dropping your identity. We're not telling you to give all, go home and run out, after we're done here and go give all your things away. We're not saying that. We're saying that what we're going to share with you is what has worked for us. And if you want to put an addition onto your house, that's what this is about. It's about adding something to your life, a connection that we have experienced. And I take my grandmother's word that all of our ancestors want to be part of our lives. But what we've done is we've shut it down because we've been told that's not what you do. You don't speak to your ancestors. You don't speak to dead people. I do, and that's what my job is. And I'm just saying that for all of us, the direction is there. And sometimes we want to fight that direction, but if we listen to our ancestors, it's all about love. I mean, there's nothing stronger than. So when I wake up every single morning, I hear my grandmothers tell me how much they love me for taking on the prophecy and living what we've been asked to live. So.
Wonderful, thank you. And I know you were going to add something there, Inette.
Well, the piece that we haven't mentioned is in this 13,000 years without war, 12,300 years without war, the culture was matrilineal. It's a really important piece, because what's been lost is that arm. And what it meant was that women knew that and said that God didn't need help taking the lives of their children. So they deeply did all that was possible to prevent anger, recrimination, and ultimately war. And the men were in balance. They were half their mothers, and they knew it. So it wasn't a gender struggle. There was no gender segregation in this culture at all. There was no hierarchy. And there was certainly no war for all of those years. And so what we'll talk about this afternoon in workshop, this all goes much deeper this afternoon, okay, guys? So that's the little teaser for the 2 to 4 this afternoon in the same space. We'd love to have all of you return and more to be able to get into that deeper. But I did want to add the matrilineal piece.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And so, Ho'oponopono, that is, you enlightened us the other day on that. You know, myself, I got turned on to it a few years ago, really loved the philosophy I read about it, which was in the book Zero Limits. I thought it was fabulous. But your description of it is different than what maybe was expressed in that book. So what is Ho'oponopono, the original tradition?
Okay, first of all, pono means to be right with everything and everyone in every moment. Now, if there was going to be an argument here today, before I walk out of here, I want that straight. I want to be straight. I want to be right with whomever I'm having this disagreement with, because none of us know when we're going to pass. So you don't want to have regrets. My grandmother say. My grandmother say you don't want to have regrets when you pass, because on the other side, it doesn't make it real easy to move on. That you're going to have regret, and you're only. My grandmothers say, because they are on the other side, that the only one you're going to deal with is yourself. Creator already loves you unconditionally. It's like I was saying, my grandmothers loved me unconditionally. That's a consensus on the other side. Your ancestors love you unconditionally. The one you're going to have to deal with is yourself, your own soul. Did you take care of business? Did you finish what you were supposed to do? I mean, are you right with everything and everyone? Being able to say that as you pass makes it a lot easier. Ho'oponopono means that you're going to bring the communities together now to keep peace in the community. So I'll take part of this, and Inette can take the other part. My part is there's a gourd and there's a woman. There's generally always the woman that controls Ho'oponopono.
Mediates.
The mediator. The community comes together. It's not just the family, the two families that are having a disagreement, or two men or two women having a disagreement. It's a community-driven process. It can't even work correctly unless the person that is the mediator, they have to be right with themselves. They can't have things that are dangling with them because it's not the right thing. We have a problem with that understanding right now of how this works even on the islands. You can't have, you got to be clean with yourself. So anyhow, they all come together. There's food to eat as this is going on. The gourd is sitting in front of the mediator. She lifts the lid, says the prayer, and then opens to what the problem is. Starting with whomever she chooses first. Tell me what the problem is. You get your chance. Now the other side gets their chance. They try to bring it all together. Okay, so in this, it may not be finished in one setting. You might have to come back. She'll let you know when you come back. But as this goes on, the whole community participates in a loving way. So if it isn't finished, or even if it is finished in that day, when the gourd lid goes back on, it's over with for that day, or until she says, when we're gonna come back. Community driven. It's very important to know that, and you're being loved the whole time. Even if it is finished, if we all say we understand that the community still stays with the people until they say, until they know that everything is right.
So I love this part. I love to talk, and so iokepa defers to me on this moment because it's community unlike anything and you know, blessings on Namaste here, blessing on Charlotte McGinnis and all of you who are working to build community here, because this is absolutely everything we're speaking about. So in Ho'oponopono, traditionally in Hawaiian culture, the community is sitting in the circle, and each person has an opportunity while that gourd is open to speak. Even if you, in our modern community, we couldn't imagine that we had something to do with the conflict that was going on between Ellen and someone else in this room. We couldn't even, in our modern, it's their problem, right? In a community in Ho'oponopono, you can't fathom that. The web of the community is so tight. Aloha. The web of the creation is so tight that you can't imagine not being connected. So what you're doing when it's going around the circle, you're examining your own soul. It's an opportunity to look, what may I have done? Okay, Ellen, you know, your kid beat up on my kid last week, and boy, was I thinking bad things about you and your kid, and been carrying that. It isn't about the modern concept of guilt. There was none of that. It's about the opportunity to do some internal work. And if you had nothing in that circle that contributed, your turn passed. But I love that idea that the interconnection is so great that we do use the opportunity to examine ourselves, and that's probably where the individual modern idea comes of what we may have contributed to something that seems very removed. This Ho'oponopono worked not with just arguments or potential arguments. It worked with emotional problems in a single individual. It worked with health issues within a single individual. It isn't about guilt. It isn't about beating ourselves. It's about imagining what part I play in this community. I love that.
The truth of the healing process. Like people 3,000 miles away from any landmass, they had no other culture to mirror themselves after. They were there living their truth.
Yeah.
So now we have the young guys. They're going to have to deal with each other because they have a little conflict going on, right? So the macho guys, they're going to, you know, they're going to do the thing, you know, they're going to duke it out, you know, they're going to do the thing. So they say, no, it's not how it's going to happen. Well, this is how it's going to happen, the community says, is both of you are going to go take a little run, and you finish that run, you come on back here again, we're going to talk to you. So they take their run together. It's not a race. They said, do not race. It's not a race. You're going to stay side by side. Now, you come on back, you're not straightened out now they're going to send them into the water. You go take a swim. You swim out, and then you come on back, and it's not a race. You can stay together. And if you don't have it straightened out then, now we're going to send you up the mountain. Come on, you go on up that mountain. You guys stay side by side. Well, in that, not only do you have to help each other, but they're sucked on the same wind. And they're sucking in, huh? They're not so feisty now. They have a little bit of a different understanding of each other. They actually come together. It's fabulous how Creator and creation has laid out the path for all of us in these type of, and then how fear has kind of pushed that all away. But it's still there, and it's only living the example. It's not telling people how they should live. It's about doing it. And for Inette and I, on the beaches for 10 years, we were with the spousal abuse, the child abuse. We were with the people with the alcoholics, we were with the drug abuse people. I didn't go out and minister to them. I mean, that's not my job. I'm not there to tell them this is what you got to do. That's not it. We lived something else, and everybody watched it. We don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't use the language. We studied, we prepared, we listened. We sucked up that doggone environment. We listened to the wind. We listened to the rain. We have 160 different words for the wind and 138 different words for the rain. Each one's the answer to a prayer. And boy, you better know the differences when you're out trying to survive in the middle of the ocean, what the differences are, what our ancestors bring to us. The blessings. It's all there. It was all given to us all in the very beginning. And now we've closed the door every single night. We become insular. And everything we hear around us, not everything, but a lot of things we hear around us is all around fear. You have to take care of your insurances, then the insurances let you down, you gotta put your money in the banks go broke, they let you down, so, we just keep, are we shooting ourselves in the foot? I don't know. Well, I can't even go there, because it's not that we can't go there because we don't live that way. We have a car outside here that everything we own is in this car. It's a Toyota Camry. And this is how we live, and this is what's been asked. And the rest is, it's all about sharing something that's different, something else. And it's the grandmother's words, this is what they wanted. So we're still doing it.
So, well, this could go on and on, obviously, for days, and we do have a little bit of a time limit here.
Of course.
And, but that being said, I would like to, for you to tell people how they can buy this book that are watching it. Those here today, they are available, and you will get an autographed copy if you choose. But what about those who want to order it or buy it?
Thank you for that. Grandmother's Whisper, and know that this walk of faith continues to be a walk of faith. At these events, we buy books, and we order other books with what you buy them with. It's that simple. We buy them from the publisher. It is not about, and it never will be about, our having enormous quantities of money. Grandmother's Whisper is available at our website. Probably the website's the best connection to give you. It's returnvoyage.com. Return Voyage is one word. Returnvoyage.com will tell you more about what we do. There'll be a picture of the book you can click on, and it'll tell you where to get it. It is available at every venue. You may have to ask your bookstore to order it, but they can order it. It's through all the book distributors in the United States. It's certainly available at Amazon for those of you who are electronically proficient. And it's available in hardcover, softcover, and electronic version. But returnvoyage.com is your entree into what we're doing.
That's great. And I know that this was a new experience for you all today to be on video, so tell us about that a little bit.
The grandmothers are adamant. We operate under grandmother rules. And one of the grandmother rules, well, for years during the 10 years of grooming, people wanted to interview iokepa, radio, magazines, and the grandmother said, nope, you're not ready. So until we came out in the United States, began 4 years ago after the 10-year grooming period, there was none of that. Talking to people constantly, but no media intervention at all. And we have in these 4 years done radio, and we have done, finally, we were permitted to do one newspaper interview, and that was on our island. And we were never permitted to do visual, other than what's on our website. And apparently the grandmother said yes to this. Here we are. But there are all kinds of things we don't do. If any of you in the audience, for instance, say, would you come to speak at my bookstore in California or my sister's, we'd say, you get in touch with them. We can't solicit in any way at all. You'd have to get in touch with your sister in California and say, at that point we'd say, look at the website, perhaps read the book if you want, and then if they're interested, email us. Email's on the website. There's cards here with the email for you guys, but we answer all personal emails, and we respond according to what the grandmothers say. They say yes, they say no. It's that simple. So, yes,
Yes.
Charlotte, yes, Namaste, yes, Hendersonville, North Carolina.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you all, and hopefully you'll join us for the workshop this afternoon. Namaste.